Hello, everyone. Good morning, good afternoon, and good evening. Welcome to Live It Up, the show where we explore and discuss how to take your life to that next level and beyond. We cover health, wealth, relationships, and how to create a life that feels good. Because after all, that's what we all ultimately want. We want to feel good. I'm your host and coach, Fletcher Ellingson. Amy will be joining us after the commercial break as we talk about the cool concept of sabbatical. It's not very common in our culture to take a sabbatical, but I think there's a lot of value in it. And so we're going to talk more about it in just a bit. But before we get to that, I do want to remind you that if you have questions you would like us to answer on or off the air, you can email those directly to me at fletcher@fletcherellingson.com. You don't need to suffer and try to figure it out all on your own. As I frequently say on this show, asking for help or assistance or advice, that's a sign of strength. So reach out, because there are answers and solutions and ways to get unstuck and move forward powerfully. And that's what we want. We want to move forward powerfully. We want to make progress because why? Because progress in any area of our life feels good. All right, let's get to today's question. It says, Dear Fletcher, I'm 59 years old and will be 60 in 4 months. I haven't had to work for the past 4 years, but I'm now looking to get back into the workforce or start up a business. I've been thinking about this business idea. I think it's a great idea. The issue is that I kind of feel like it's too late. Realistically, it would take 3 years to get the business up and going and really producing. I don't know if it's too late in life to be putting my energy into an endeavor like this. Any thoughts? Signed, PL. Hey there, PL. First of all, thanks for reaching out. This is a great question, and it's a question that a lot of people face as they get into their late 50s and early 60s, because we look at the hourglass of life and we realize that there's a lot more sand in the bottom half of the hourglass. It didn't used to be that way. But I do want to remind you that there could be plenty of good years ahead of you. There are less, but still plenty of people who are creating well into their 60s and 70s. And I have a few examples that might inspire you. And you may not have heard of some of these people, but nonetheless, they are inspiring with what they've done. Let's start out with Mary Tennyson. She started her business at 63 years old. Mary came up with the Stash-All. Now, the Stash-All is a purse/pocketbook that attaches to a walker. And she got the idea because she had a 92-year-old mother who took a fall and ended up breaking her hip. And afterwards, her mom needed a walker to get around, but using the walker and trying to manage a purse, it was challenging and cumbersome. So Mary created the Stash-All for her mom, and realized that there was a greater need for this product. And so she created a successful business in this niche market. Pretty cool, right? And she did that in her 60s. Another example, you may be more familiar with this, is Wally Bloom, who spent over 20 years in the dairy business. And later, he and some partners went into the ice cream business and created some big-time hit flavors like Moose Tracks, Caramel Caribou. And what he ended up doing was he wanted to own this business outright. So he ended up mortgaging his house to buy his partners out, and then started what is now known as Denali Flavors. And he's been so successful, the company's grown to over $85 million in annual sales. And again, he started that around age 60. So, great example. Then there's Lisa Gable. She started her business at the age of 70. While many people are retired at age 70, Lisa Gable got an idea for a business as a result of her own frustration. And what was she frustrated about? Trying to hide her bra straps that would sometimes fall down on her arms. And especially she didn't like it when she was giving presentations. So she set out to create a solution and invented the Strap Mate, which promised to keep the straps in place on the shoulders. Now, most men probably don't know that product, but I did look it up online, and I recognized it from seeing it in stores, and probably most women are familiar with that. When did she start that? at age 70. I'll give you two more examples. Radha Daga from Chuni, India, started her business at age 69. She founded Triguni Foods, which supplies popular packaged foods to Indigo Airlines, as well as a bunch of retail stores. One of her goals was to create opportunities to employ women, and she employs a lot of them because they produce about 400,000 individual packaged meals a month. And she didn't know how it was going to go, but it took off. And then, of course, there's one that most of us will recognize. It's about the Colonel. That's right, Colonel Sanders, that is. He was 65 years old, and he was dependent on his, at that time, $105 a month Social Security check. And what he did was he had already had a passion for chicken and his secret recipe. But at that age, he began going around the country in his Ford, his Ford pickup. And in his mid-60s, he spent his time driving all around, personally visiting other business owners and signing them up for franchises. And we all know how that one ended. So sometimes it's helpful to look at what others have done, because others have paved the way for us. They've shown us what's possible. Now, I understand your concern about age and time, PL, but I want you to know that you're resourceful, you're capable, you're flexible, and if you feel passionate about something, if you feel inspired, there's still time. There's always time for the things that are important to us. So my words to you are go for it and have fun with it. All right, we're going to take a quick break, and then we're going to be back to talk with Amy about taking some time off. Stay with us. Hello, everybody. Welcome back to Live It Up. So glad you're here. So glad you're in this conversation. And I'm so glad that Amy's here. I'm
here.
How you doing?
Good.
It's good to see you here.
It's weird to be back. I haven't been here in a while.
I know. Both of us kind of took a little break. I had a little thing removed on my nose. I had a big hole in my nose, so I had to wait till that healed up.
Yeah, you had that Mohs surgery. Look, I was thinking about that when I was watching you before. It looks good.
Yeah, well, thank you.
Yeah.
Wish I could take credit, but I can't.
No.
There was a very skilled surgeon involved.
Yes.
So. Well, hey, what are we talking about today?
My sabbatical, or sabbatical in general.
Sabbatical in general, and then specifically your sabbatical.
Yes.
But I know that you enjoy etymology, right?
I do enjoy etymology.
So I prepared a little something here.
And I'm a little scared. I don't know what you prepared for this.
You tell me which one of these fits more. A sabbatical is a rest or break from work. The concept of the sabbatical is based on the biblical practice of Shemitah, which is related to agriculture. According to Leviticus 25, Jews in the land of Israel must take a year-long break from working the fields once every 7 years. It was also a time when landowners would forgive debts and free slaves, and it also allowed for property to kind of have a year of healing and replenishing. So that's one definition and concept of sabbatical. In 1880, it was offered as a period of time when college or university teachers were allowed to stop their usual work in order to study or travel, usually while continuing to be paid. There's another way of doing sabbatical. And then there is a sabbatical leave, which is an extended time away from work that is granted to an employee for varying purposes, including personal reasons, professional and academic growth, learning and development of new skills, or rest and recuperation while maintaining their status as an existing employee. Which of these pertains to you? Agriculture?
Well, not the agriculture, obviously. I mean, I think it's a combination of those two, the second two, because I am doing a little bit of a work project, and I'm doing some volunteer work while I'm gone, but there is a lot of rest and recuperation. So
yeah,
and so it's a combination of all of that.
I thought it was interesting though that this was originally designed to give people a break from working in the fields, and very cool, to know in 7 years our debts are forgiven.
Yeah, I
right?
wonder how that works.
It's like that time of Jubilee kind of, right?
Mm.
Where things are washed away, wiped out, and slaves are freed.
Yeah.
Kind of made me wonder, but then for how long
Right.
are they then re-enslaved?
Mm-hmm.
Are you re-indebted? But anyways,
Yeah.
interesting. And then I think I grew up with this concept of sabbatical around, university teachers or professors
Mm-hmm.
taking time off and going away, or pastors, because I was on track to be a pastor, and so there were pastors that would take a sabbatical and they'd go and study something and come back. But there were some other things in here too, that said frequently you were still being paid.
Yeah, well, I think when I did a little bit of research even on the word, I think it seems like it's most common, very common in the clergy world. And I do think when your profession is kind of a caregiver for people in general, I think having a break from that constant caregiving, I think is really healthy for everybody. And I think there are a lot of medical practices that, not a lot, there are some medical practices that have a sabbatical as part of the benefits, at year 5, year 10, year 15, or whatever, and it can be paid, and it can also go into your pay structure. So I do think that I've seen it, academically, some physician practices, and then in the clergy is where I've heard of it mostly.
Yeah. I was surprised. I did some research, and one bit of research suggested that there was 18% of companies offered some form of sabbatical.
Mm-hmm.
That was surprising to me because I don't really hear a lot of people talk about I'm taking a sabbatical, see you next year, or see you in 6 months.
Well, I wonder too, even if it's offered, say you're in a company and there's this track and you're moving forward and you're involved, it might be, people may not use that sabbatical option because they feel like they might be left behind or not part of the expansion or growth.
Yeah.
Because our culture our American identity doesn't have much rest in it.
Right, yeah.
Right.
I think we were even watching a show recently where one of the characters was like, what? We're Americans. We don't take time off.
Right.
So,
Yeah.
So the whole concept of sabbatical is really cool. I like it. And I like having you around on a daily basis.
Yeah.
But I'm just watching the time here. But I do want to find out what you are hoping to get out of your sabbatical. Why did you want to take a sabbatical? And we also want to talk about how your employer responded to this request, because it's not common. And then we also want to talk to people about because maybe you can't take off 3 months, but is there some other workaround? Is there some other concept that we could talk about where people could feel I can take this much time off, or I can make that something work for me, because I can't afford to take 3 months
Right.
off or 6 months off or whatever it is.
Well, yeah, and I think people maybe don't know that I don't even know that you said it yet. I'm on a 90-day sabbatical from
Yes.
work. Yeah, so starting
and
at
unpaid.
unpaid sabbatical, starting at the end of August, going until the end of November.
Yeah.
Right. Yeah, but something I think that the way we work in life in general is, and the way that I see the world is that you can create the life that you want, and you have to be the one to ask for what you want. You can always be told no. I don't mind being told no. But it's something that I think a lot of people are like, oh gosh, I shouldn't ask for that, or what if they are offended, but it's it is the only time we're on this planet, or at least that's what most people believe.
She's laying down wisdom here, folks. It's the only time we're here on this planet. But I really love what you just said was, you have to create it, and you have to ask for it, right? And in that sense, we're creating it. And how do we create? With language, right?
Yeah. So you have to, no one's going to give you the job of your dreams necessarily. No one's going to maybe spontaneously give you that raise you want, or no one's going to change your benefits that, maybe they would, but it would be on a different timetable than you might want. And so I think I am always encouraging people just to be in communication with their place of work, because the other thing is they want you to be happy. They want you to have longevity in that position. So if you're feeling burned out, or you're feeling like you not sure how long you could do this without this in your life, it's better for everybody to ask for what you want, so you can be happy, stay and stay employed in that position.
Right. And it's like you said, you have to ask for it because it's very unlikely that someone's going to say, hey, you've been working here for 20 years.
Right.
Take 6 months off.
Right. Yeah,
No,
for sure.
Not going to happen.
All right, should we take a quick break?
Yeah, we're going to take a quick break. We'll be back here to talk more about this concept of sabbatical. Stay with us. Hey everybody, welcome back to Live It Up. It's a smoky day, as you can see behind us. But we're inside and we're glad you're here joining us. We're talking about sabbatical and your sabbatical specifically. So give us the lowdown. Why did you decide to take one in the first place?
Well, I want to say you were a big influence because this is my 20th year in practice, and I'm not at the same place that I started. So some people were like, well, gosh, you think after 20 years they would offer you something, but I've only been with this employer for 3 years. So I didn't even want to ask for a paid one because that didn't seem right to me. But it was a year ago, and so it was like, gosh, it'll be my 20th year. Even though I love my job, I love the administration, I love the people I work with, I love my patients. It's a fairly low stress version of practicing medicine, I feel like, in the setup that I have. But it's still, every decision I make feels like it, not feels like it, it can have an adverse outcome or adverse event, or if you miss something, or if you're just kind of, you're hyper vigilant all day long and you're having to juggle a lot of things. And every day, at the end of the day, I'm usually pretty spent. And so you do that 4 days a week, even though by the end of the weekend, I feel rested. And part of me feels like, gosh, I should just suck it up and everyone else is having to do it. But I also, next year I'm turning 50 and I want to be able to continue what I'm doing because I feel like I'm getting more and more wisdom and I'm getting more and more experience. And I think a lot of people would probably agree that maybe in their early 50s, they feel like they're really getting good at their job, even though, because anyway. So I think in our exploration of how can I keep doing this, we talked about, well, what if you just took a little bit of time off where you didn't have any commitments and you didn't have to manage all those things and be juggling all day and being responsible for all of those people's lives and health. And not that I'm responsible solely, obviously I do a small portion of their health, but that's how it came up. And then you started saving for us, and then here we are.
Here we are, a year later, it's happened. Again, a testimony to the power of creating, right?
Yeah, and I think you mentioned, it's not like my office manager, my CEO has ever had a physician do this before. So when I brought it up, my CEO was like, I don't even know what that looks like. How does that work? What would happen? Is that going to be, I don't want it to be, neither one of us wanted to have a negative impact on the practice or our patients. And so we had to talk through all that. And, I obviously offered, like we said, to take it unpaid. So it would be less of a financial impact because that's not what I want to have. I don't want that to be a financial strain. And then I found an amazing Dr. Amy Van Milligan, who's filling in for me from Ohio. And she was burned out of her job, wanted to leave it. So she's filling in. And she's experienced and great. And actually, I just talked to my nurse today, and everything's going really well.
Yeah, and I love that, too, how that piece came into play, because one of the questions was like, well, how do we find someone to replace you? It's challenging enough to get people to a rural area to come and practice medicine. How do we find one for 3 months?
Yeah.
And how do we find it soon? But you were resourceful, and you went online, and you started networking, put the word out, and again, you created it through words, through language, and now that person who's coming out here and moved her whole family out here for 3 months,
right,
and is having an experience, an adventure.
Yeah.
So if we trust that life is always working out for us, incredible things can happen.
Yeah.
So let's find out, what do you have planned for a sabbatical? What does it look like for you to take one?
Well, I think like anyone who takes some time off or does like a staycation, you don't necessarily want to just be like a sloth the whole time and like watch movies over and over, like all day long. But I didn't want to do that. Maybe some people do for 2 weeks or something. And I also didn't want to be scheduled. Like, everyone was looking at me like, yeah, you're going to schedule yourself, because that's kind of what I tend to do. But I really wanted to not do that. I wanted to not feel like I'm in a rush. So
You said you didn't want to have to fit anything in.
I didn't want to, be like, oh, okay, I'll just squeeze this in or squeeze that in. I didn't want to do that. So I think, so I've kind of set up my day where every day I want to do, one of the goals that I want to feel restored, and I want to feel replenished, and I want to feel filled up and rested, so I can come back to my job feeling all those ways and be able to then caretake for the next several years and perform my job to the best of my ability.
So give us some examples of what are the certain things you want to check off on during your day.
Yeah, so I'm doing a lot of meditation and spirituality, and I'm doing a lot of, I'm wanting to do that for 45 minutes a day, doing some sort of that. I'm exercising, moving my body for 45 minutes a day. I am doing a work project on the EMR. I'm working on that a bit on most days, and I'm wanting to make sure that I have some chill/creative time every day. So I have a journal, and I'm keeping track of it, but I'm also not being like some days I don't write in it, and that's okay. So I'm trying to, and I'm watching some TV, and I've read like 6 books, and I love reading. So I'm cooking every day. I'm cooking lunch and dinner, and you're eating more than you usually do because I'm home, and being with our daughter, our 15-year-old who's still at home, get to go to her basketball games at home, and
yeah. So you're doing the things that you want to do.
Yeah. I think that a lot of times there's, at least for me, and I feel like a lot of people that especially have jobs at the computer, I also have a lot of neck tension and shoulder tension, and every time I get a massage, they tell me they don't know anyone else's neck that's this tight, and I feel like I don't know what to do. And so I'm also curious as to some of these, chronic stress tension patterns that I developed in the last 20 years. I'm wanting to see if there can be some healing around that, and I don't know how else to do that besides taking a break, because when you every day at the end of the day, if you're like, I'm so tight, you have to have many days where you're not like that.
Right, yeah. Yeah, good stuff.
The other thing I'm doing is I'm going to Lesotho. I'm on a board there for the Tiny Lives Foundation.
Which is where?
Oh, it's in Southern Africa. It's a little country within South Africa. So I'm going there in October with a group of 5 other women, and we're going to have a blast, and we're going to help out. I'm going to work a little bit at the hospital. So that's really exciting, because I've gone, this will be my 3rd time going, and every time it's a transforming experience.
Yeah, and you're going there for about 8 or 9 or 10 days or something like that.
Yeah, total travel time is 12 days, I think.
Got it. So very quickly, we don't have that much time left, but some people may be like, wow, sabbatical, what a cool concept. I couldn't take that in my position or my current position. What do you say to that?
Well, I would say, get creative and be in communication. Like, we have a friend who had up in Chelan, and he, instead of he was supposed to have a 4-day week work or something, and so he did it. He worked 5, so then he had multiple days off in a row. Or, I think it's good to just be aware. If you're feeling like you are desiring a break, or you feel like you need a break, or your family needs you to take a break, or whatever it may be, or you're just like, gosh, I don't know if I can continue if I don't get some relief from this pressure, then I think you just have to get creative and be in communication. Like, how can you do that? Can you get flex time? Could you job share with someone? Could you go down to part-time, and that way you'll make less money, but you'll have better longevity? I see so many people that do work really hard until retirement, and then they have poor health, and I don't want that to happen to me. I don't want that to happen to anyone. So if you're feeling like you're having kind of chronic stress and tension, I would really encourage people to try to figure out some breathing room.
Yeah, and at first your mind might be like, well, that doesn't work for me. I encourage you to think beyond that. And just think like, oh, let me see if I can be open to the concept. Just be open to it. You don't have to solve it, figure it out right now, but just be open to it, and something might come up for you.
Yeah.
Well, very cool. I'm glad you're on sabbatical. I'm having fun with you.
Yeah.
And now it's time for you to get out there, be a source of kindness, be a source of contribution. You do have something to offer this world, and we believe in you.